everyone. Welcome back to Keeping Up with the Chaldeans. We have Joanne Shango here with Mara Montessori Collective. Correct. I say it like that because I'm a absent-minded dodo. But she's here to correct me, and she's here to teach me because that's what she does. She does education, y'all. So tell us about Mara Montessori Collective.
So the Mara Montessori Collective is a new initiative. I've had Montessori schools for the past 13 years, and we are changing and growing, and it's all based on our foundation of who we've been for the past 13 years, but the future is bright, and we are expanding and growing, and we felt it was time to make a change. So we are now the Mara Montessori Collective, and we are a birth through high school Montessori at this point in time.
Birth through high school.
Birth through high school, a
What does
lifetime.
Birth through high school mean? Like kids right out of the womb?
Like 2 months old.
Okay.
I mean, keep them home for a
Is
few
that
months.
really 2 months?
Yeah, for real. You know,
Wow.
some people prefer to have nannies at home, and others can't, make that work for some reason. And we offer a safe, nurturing space for infants. Our infant community is thriving. It's wonderful. It's a really natural, home-like environment with really low ratios. And it's a great alternative to having a nanny. Or if you were like me, I live just a little bit too far away from my in-laws and my parents to have them help me out. And so being able to have a community where you can bring your children. So yeah, from birth, you can have Montessori.
What is a typical 2 or 3 or 4 month old? How many days are they there, or what do you do with them while they're there?
We care for them,
Okay.
and we love them.
Yes.
But we also understand development. I've been doing this for a really long time. My teachers have been doing this for a really long time. We really do understand and master. We're experts in early childhood development.
Wow.
And so an infant they have big work. Did you know that 65% of all you're ever going to learn happens from birth through age 6?
Wow.
And from an infant, from the time that they're born, they are already learning. They're figuring out what's happening. They're mastering the understanding of 1, sometimes 2 or 3 languages. By the time they're 18 months old, they're usually starting to speak. So now they've got oral language as well as receptive language where they're receiving it. So an environment rich in language opportunities. We have teachers that speak English to the kids, Portuguese to the kids, Chaldean to the kids, Spanish to the kids. They're really experiencing all of these different languages, and they are learning how to move their bodies. In today's world where we see so many different children that have differences, and what's happening is there's a disconnect in their body and their neurological development, and we know that from the youngest of ages, when you give really natural experiences in the environment, it helps to integrate it's called the sensory system.
Yeah.
And it integrates the way you think, what you experience, and how you respond. And you want that at the highest level. It doesn't change your neurodiversity.
Yeah.
It helps you be yourself at your most optimal.
Okay.
And that's the infant program.
I took you off track, and I got
Totally
you really
did.
deep into.
That always happens here.
Yeah, no doubt. This is Keeping Up with the Chaldeans, after all. We're not typical folks. So the background of Mara.
Mara. Yeah.
So background of Mara,
Yeah.
and why Mara?
Yeah, so as a school, we've been around for 13 years. We're rebranding, and we're changing our organizational structures, and all kinds of wonderful things are happening. But part of the name, and we were on a journey for the past 4 months of who we were going to be for this next era of our school. And I just felt it was really important. And oftentimes, conversations I've had with you here kept coming up into my mind, and you kept you used to end your interviews, I don't know if you still do, with what does it mean to be
to you to be Chaldean. Yeah.
And that's part of it. Mara actually has its roots in the Chaldean Seraph language. It means leader, teacher, guide. For all you Chaldeans, when you think of like when we say Maran, that doesn't mean Jesus. That means Jesus is our leader and our teacher and our guide.
Yeah.
Right? Now, we're not Maran because we're not the supreme leader. That's Jesus, right?
Yep.
But Mara means teacher and leader and guide, and that's what we do in Montessori. It's like a direct reflection of us. And it speaks to our cultural language. In today's world where sometimes that gets suppressed or misunderstood, I'm not afraid of that. I want to really embrace, I've always embraced it, but share it with the world. And the reception of the name has been extraordinary. People really resonate with it. One of my new teachers, she said, hallelujah. You know, because I was asking her, like, what do you think? And about using this cultural name. And she said, I don't think I'd want to be at your school if you were afraid to use a cultural name, like something that is so rich in history. So that's where the name Mara comes from, then Montessori. And it's a collective because we have more than one school. And it's a collective because we're a collection of adults and teachers and children, and we're creating one community that respects and understands each other and supports each other to grow.
So how would you describe the change and what changes are being made? It's more than a name. So what other added benefits are there to people to come to now to Mara?
Yeah. Well, one, we're growing into the full adolescent program. We're also leaning into, in a very important way, the idea of having a hybrid adolescent program. More and more people, not just in the state of Michigan, but our Chaldean community is choosing to homeschool because they're, for lots of different reasons, both in the public and private schools, they're feeling like, you know what, I want my kids at home, but we can't do all of it. And we also know that there's still important aspects of socialization. So the hybrid program is supporting parents that are choosing to do homeschool for their middle school and high school students, while still getting the best of our educational program. So that's a new program that we're adding. In addition to that, we're offering a parent-child program. Again, there's many parents that want to keep their kids at home, but they also want to learn and they want to engage with their children and they want to create community. And the parent-child class, which is launching in October, is an opportunity for parents with young children from infants through preschool, can come with their kids once a week, and they get to work with our guide in the Montessori classroom. They can have coaching in regards to things to do, but it's a great open space. It has more things, more Montessori materials and toys than what you could have in your home. I mean, just physically. So that's a new program that we're adding. And for the first time ever, and this has to do with our growth because we've opened the new Bloomfield Hills campus, which is now called Sage Mara, which means wisdom and guidance, so guided wisdom. With opening that, we've opened more space. And so for the first time in probably 10 years, we're offering a part-time program. And that's also going to bridge the gap for affordability, but also for those parents that just aren't ready to separate from their kids 5 days a week. We're going to be offering a 3-day-a-week program. And in the past, I've always said, like, Montessori doesn't work as 3 days a week. Some kids come 3 days, some kids come 5 days. There's inconsistencies. But now that we have the extra space, it's a dedicated class, which then takes away the challenges of having kids come irregularly to a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday part-time class, half days. So you get the best of Montessori and you still get to have your kids at home on the other days of the week. And it's just a good introduction to preschool and kindergarten. So those are some of the new programs that we're offering. Within 5 years, we will have the full high school. But now,
when was that again?
Within 5 years, I think we'll have the full high school. Whenever people are ready for it, because the high school and the hybrid adolescent program are the same curriculum. They're the same method. And so anytime somebody says, hey, can they come 4 days a week? Can they come 5 days a week? Can you take over all of the academics? We're able to do that. But we're also looking at sustainability, and we want to do everything right. And so we're giving ourselves a 5-year growth plan to fully move into a high school, but it's available right now in the hybrid program. And we actually have one student that is doing 10th grade full-time because that's going to work better for her. And so those are some of the programs that we're adding that is part of why we're rebranding and creating that Mara Montessori Collective. But more than that, we're also changing organizational structures. You get to a certain point where, for our business anyways, and we're a school, but we're also a business. And it's important for us to think about that because the school is important for children and development and intellectual development and building. But without a business structure, we can't succeed. And and with all the growth in the programs and with the 2 campuses, we've really, we were experiencing growing pains. And so we're changing the organizational structure so that we can support the families and as high of a quality as we can support, as we've always been supporting the children.
Nice. And for those that haven't seen a previous episode, talk about traditional schooling to Montessori, kind of just briefly touch on that.
So traditional schooling is academic development. And sometimes they might touch on some social and emotional. If you're in a Catholic school or another religious-based school, there might be some of that development. But children are sat and they're being taught academics, and they're all being taught exactly the same way. And in Montessori, it's really customized. It's customized education. So you're a father, you've got children. When you think of your child and your daughter or your son might not learn exactly the same way as another person, or their social needs or their academic needs are different. And when you teach only to the middle, like in a traditional school, kids suffer. There's kids that are underwhelmed, they're bored, and there's kids that are overwhelmed. And that almost always, interprets as emotional overwhelm and usually behaviors. And in Montessori, it's actually about coaching who they are, helping them to understand themselves, and giving them their intellectual development or that academic curriculum when they're ready for it. So we could have a 5th grader that's working on algebraic concepts, and we can have a 5th grader that's still working on arithmetic.
Right.
And one isn't behind and one isn't far ahead.
Right.
Each one is where they're supposed to be. And then in the Montessori classroom, it's collaborative learning. So when you think about in a traditional school, if you leaned over your desk and you asked your friend next to you about the answer to something on the work that you were doing, that's called
cheater.
Right?
Yeah.
And in Montessori,
considered a cheater. You weren't a cheater.
Yeah, you weren't a cheater.
You weren't a cheater.
Right? You weren't a cheater, and yet that's how it feels. And in Montessori, collaborative learning is part of the environment. And usually, a lot of Montessori teachers will say things like, ask 3 before me. Who are 3 people that you could ask that question to before you ask me?
The teacher.
The teacher will
Really?
say that, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
And they go to each other. It's hands-on. Why do we learn algebra? Why do we learn geometry? Most people are like, I never used algebra again. We actually all use algebra. When you go to the grocery store, you're using algebra. You're going, okay, I've got $300 that I'm going to spend at the grocery store. I'm buying this much chuck roast, this many pounds, this is how much it costs. I need 2 bottles of ketchup, I need this. That's actually your algebraic equation, but you're working it out as you go versus it all on paper. And I didn't know that growing up. Why am I doing this? I'm an artist. I'm not going to be doing that, right? In Montessori, when it's hands-on, first of all, you're able to understand all of the steps. You're able to construct it and deconstruct it. But particularly as kids get older in the adolescent program and in upper elementary, it's project-based learning. And now you need that math because you are building a bridge on the playground. because there's a swampy area. And so you need that algebra and you need that geometry to actually figure out, and the trigonometry to actually figure that out. And now the kids don't resist the academics. They're actually going and saying, Miss Joanne, how do I want the bridge to do this. I'm like, okay, so do you remember blah, blah, blah? And like, oh, let's go back to that lesson. How many times do you hear a kid saying, can I do that one again, right? And yet that does happen in our school.
That's awesome. So what is Laurel?
So Laurel
Mara.
Thank you.
You got it.
Yeah. Laurel Mara is the Rochester Hills campus.
Yep.
And Laurel really means like longevity and prosperity and honor. And the Rochester Hills campus was our first campus 14 years ago now. And so we felt that that was really the right name for that. That campus has an infant and toddler program, a preschool and kindergarten program, and elementary through grade 6.
Okay.
Yeah, whereas Sage Mara, which means, we've already talked about this, it means wisdom and guidance, is the Bloomfield Hills campus, and that goes all the way through the hybrid high school.
And so someone that has a child in a Montessori already, what would the benefit be for them to pluck them out and bring them to you?
So many reasons.
Yeah. Okay.
Many reasons.
Well, let's list them for our listeners.
Well, yeah, I feel like I know that we offer a really authentic program. More than that, our expertise in the field. I mean, we have teachers that are Montessori trainers. We have people like myself that are international speakers. I'm actually a guest lecturer at Oakland University in their PhD program. We're experts in it. We know what we're talking about, and we know how to do it and implement it. And those are fundamental reasons. We love and we care for the kids. We understand the differences in children. And then for our Chaldean community, again, part of that connection of why we've had this name change to Mara is there's something really important about knowing that the school that you're at truly understands your child, not just for their personality and for their intellectual development and their social development, but their cultural background. And that is something that we get to provide because a Chaldean family is running this, and we have some Chaldean teachers as well as others. We're an international school, but there's something really special and important about that, and it's extraordinary. There's the Baba comes in to pick up his granddaughter, and we get to have this conversation with him in Surat, and or we can address it. I mean, he comes in, I'm like, "Are you Baba or are you Jiddu?" And he's like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah." It's amazing, and the kids get it. I understand where some of these kids are coming from, particularly the kids that do learn differently or are experiencing emotions and stuff differently. There's cultural barriers that cause an increase in some of the frustrations when those kids are at like more traditional schools, or they're getting lost culturally as well as socially and emotionally and academically. And that relatability, that ability for me to be able to sit down with somebody and say, yeah, I get it, right? And have those conversations. And as head of school, it always surprises people, but I know every student in the school.
Yeah.
Cultivating relationships. I mean, we have over 300 students, and I know every one of those students and parents.
At both schools?
At both schools.
Wow.
I don't always remember the parents' names, but I always remember their children's names.
That's who matters.
That is who matters, right? Those kinds of things, I think, make a huge difference. And I have a dedication to all children and development. And I have a special love for inclusivity with children with different learnings. And then, that relationship with my Chaldean families is, I love all of the students, but there's just something different there. And the kids just get tickled pink when I'm just like, you brought takhrata? Like, really? Like, did you bring me one? Like, no, but I'm going to tell my mom. And then, Yama brings me like a six-pack. Yeah, exactly. It's just fantastic.
Are there a lot of Chaldeans at the school that are taking advantage of?
Yeah, I think about 20 to 25% of our student body
good.
is Chaldean, you know,
I
and
love that.
it's fantastic. We have middle schoolers that are Chaldean and elementary students and little infants that are Chaldean.
Wow, that's
and
amazing.
It's pretty awesome.
And it's not like it was before where they're cliquey. You know, they all willing and accepting to everyone and open their culture to everyone and include everyone. And we're being raised right.
Yeah.
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 It's fun.
And they're sharing and they're celebrating who they are.
Yeah.
And the misunderstandings and I think some of the frustrations and are erased. I think that, you know, there's a number of parochial schools that are predominantly Chaldean. And sometimes, like, I think there's some negativity around that too from other, right?
Yeah.
And it's so unfair and unjust,
Yep.
right? And in our school community, that doesn't happen because the whole school community is celebrating culture, and they're also learning about it. And so there aren't those misunderstandings. Instead, there's the celebration. Because I always say, you have to go beyond acceptance. You have to be able to celebrate, whether it's the culture or the religion or the differences in each individual child. You have to go beyond accepting to one understanding and then celebrating it.
Yeah.
And so the experience for all of our students is different, particularly for our Chaldean students, where it's definitely one community, and yet they get to celebrate their identity and brag about it.
Very cool. And so do all the other students.
Correct.
Yeah, which is beautiful too.
Yeah.
And it's like a beautiful melting pot.
It's a beautiful mosaic.
Mosaic.
Yeah, because we're not losing anything. And
Right,
a melting pot, you think all of it comes together and it becomes one other thing.
Yep.
And a mosaic, each individual and each culture is important without this feeling like, oh, they're trying to make me be that or be this or be that. That's not what.
Or whitewashing anything. You
know,
no,
it's all one.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And that helps you deliver future leaders.
That's the goal.
Okay.
That's the goal.
Talk about that. How is that process?
Yeah, that's really one of the basis of Montessori education is this idea that we're building change makers in the world. And lots of people want to be change makers, and then they end up crashing and burning everything, and chaos happens.
Okay.
And yet, true change makers are kind, they're curious, and they're brave.
Yeah.
And they come with a plan. They figure things out, like, where do I see a problem? What can be done about it? Do I want to scale this, or do we need to sit inside of it? They're making real decisions, and that's where real change comes from.
Yeah.
Without rebellion, without frustration, without fighting. And then they have these real skills. I mean, these kids that are building 8-foot tall tents outside, like with real wood and saws and things like that.
At your school?
At our school.
Okay.
Right? Like, they're starting the revolution, and they're saying, we got to have a reenactment, and we can't use power tools. We can't use a tent from, the whatever store it is.
Yep.
And they're saying, we got to build it the way they built it back then.
Wow.
And they're doing it, and they're struggling. They build an 8-foot tall tent, or they decide to make those A-frame tents.
Yeah, yeah.
And they did the angles wrong.
Yeah.
But they did the angles wrong. And so it was a 4-foot tall tent, A-frame tent. And they're like, that's okay, we can use it for the kids section of the reenactment. They're really persevering, they're problem solving, and they're creative with it. They are making changes. They're understanding what the world is, what isn't working, and how to make it a safer, better place for everybody.
For sure.
Yeah, and that's the change makers.
Okay. And you do have a 5-year plan or 10-year plan, or what? Let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, over the next 5 years, we're growing our adolescent community. We're offering more classes in our early childhood for infants and toddlers, as well as preschoolers and kindergartners and elementary. But we're really focusing on the adolescent program, we really expect that in 5 years it's going to be a fully developed. There's going to be, and it's going to be small. You don't need 800 kids in a high school. People get lost in that. 100.
Okay.
Smaller class sizes, still that one-on-one, real community building, and yet enough diversity of different personalities and people to create that social network that's important when you go out to the real world. We're creating a model society. And inside of that model society, that microeconomy, so that they actually understand real world applications.
Sure.
I mean, our adolescents, our middle schoolers, this year they had a trip planned to Chicago, and they needed to raise, I think, $1,500 in their microeconomy. And they didn't have it in time for booking their Airbnb and their train tickets and stuff. So they had to take a loan from the school.
Oh, wow.
And so they had to write up a loan agreement. They had to accept the terms. They had to pay back the loan at a certain time.
Real world stuff.
Yeah. They had to pay back the loan at a certain time, and they were about to miss the deadline, which would have meant that they'd have to pay us a higher interest.
Yeah.
And all of that is actually part of their, that's
yeah.
bigger than like, let's learn, this math. And
So did they make the trip?
they made the trip, because we gave them the loan, so they were making the trip one way or the other. It was how
Okay.
much they were going to have to pay us back.
I got
And
you.
originally it was a 0% loan, and then it was going to go to 10%, and so on and so forth. And so they...
good thing they paid it back before they got you in trouble.
Right? That'd be bad.
Yeah. Loan sharking.
So they turned around and they... They turned around and they actually gave a secondary business proposal, and they said Laurel Mara had a larger student population, so could they do their food truck idea at Laurel for a couple of days?
Smart.
And they filled the gap, and they paid us back in time.
So that's how
did
they
that.
were raising the money to
That's
pay?
how they were raising the money.
Good for them.
Yeah. Yeah, and so it's real microeconomy. And so over the next 5 years, that program is getting even more fully developed to become not just successful on our campus, but as a model for other programs, because it needs to be everywhere, not just in my school. It really needs to be everywhere. These real life learning opportunities. There's higher engagement. The kids are grounded. They're doing real heavy work, and then the pride that comes out of it. So that's part of the 5-year plan. Also part of the 5-year plan is through our Spirit of the Child Alliance.
Okay.
And in the Spirit of the Child Alliance, we're actually launching an initiative to raise $10 million so that we could actually build a well health center inside of the school, so that we could provide additional supports, whether it's academic supports for somebody that is dyslexic, or somebody that needs occupational therapy or physical therapy or psychologist, but to have that actually embedded inside of the Montessori school, not just available, but integrated into all of what we do with all of our teachers.
On the campus?
On the campus.
Wow.
That's going to be on our Bloomfield Hills campus. We're really excited about it. We are a school that is absolutely dedicated to supporting these kiddos.
How do you raise that kind of money?
It's a capital campaign. It starts here.
Yeah. Right.
And I think it's about really educating people that have and want to give but don't know where to give. People that truly want to secure a safe and thriving, amazing future, and it comes from our students. People that really understand that the Steve Jobs out there are the kids that struggled in school.
Yeah.
And those kids, they get lost, and they're disrespected, and they're tolerated. And that's unacceptable. Even in the public schools where they have like those IEPs and all of that, there's a pullout, there's an ostracism, there's an embarrassment, there's not a true understanding. And to be able to have an environment, a school that specializes in that, and that's not all we do, and will never be a school just for special education. I hate that term. We're a school that's integrated. Like, my daughter that is neurotypical, high performing, she's very smart, as well as my son who is super smart and wasn't quite as hardworking, ADHD, all those kinds of things. And then my other son, who was gifted, and sensory overload and meltdowns and didn't know how to handle things, all are in the same school, all thriving and not taking away from each other. And with this new initiative and building this new, they call it a medical model, but it's not like medical, but having all of these supports with people that are not only specialists in occupational therapy, but now they're also specialists in Montessori education and that respectful development of the child. Not doing occupational therapy to make your child act like other children, but instead to be their best self and to trust themselves and respect themselves. Look what Steve Jobs did, and he didn't get that. Imagine if he did.
Look what
to really make a huge difference, not just in your own children's lives, but this one's bigger. And it's in the lives of so many more children and for decades and decades to come. And so, yeah, call me directly. I'm totally fine with it. But about this.
Cool. Thank you very much for joining us. Hopefully people take advantage of the Montessori. Get out there, get your kids involved. There's the hybrid
program, for adolescents.
And the regular Montessori. So get out there.
It's available. And it's Chaldean, and it's Montessori.
Thanks for joining us.